Welcome to the Comic Binge. I am your host, Paul Herman, and today we are talking about Skeleton Crew, Star Wars TV show. We haven't done a show in a while for Marvel and Star Wars, so it's about time we did it. Get off my butt and do it, and bring in my very good friends. And also, we have a comic book recommendation to talk about today, which I'm very excited to talk about because we love comics and we love Star Wars. Well, at least most of us, anyway. I don't know after today. We'll find out. Maybe people have stopped liking Star Wars after today. But anyway, if you haven't already, I'd appreciate everyone to go. Please subscribe to the channel. I appreciate everyone who already has. People like the video, etc., because that stuff is just, it's just mandatory, you know? I mean, I have to say this stuff now because, you know, whatever. So anyway, go like the videos, go subscribe. We're going to talk about Skeleton Crew for a bit and then talk about a cool, fun Star Wars comic. But in the meantime, I'm going to bring my... Talk to my good friends here if I can finally figure out how to do this stuff called, StreamYard. Here we go. As always, I'm joined by the elder statesman himself, Scott Ryfin. Hello, sir. How are you, sir? Okay. He's good.
No, I'm conserved. You know, I'm old, as you keep pointing out, and I was just trying to conserve my voice for the actual discussion that we were going to have. So sorry.
You know what's funny is I actually can sympathize with that, to be completely honest, because listen, I'm not a radio show host like you are.
Yeah.
But I do talk for a living all day.
Yeah.
So my voice does get destroyed. So as soon as I get sick, it's gone.
The struggle is real.
It's real. So, elder statesman, I can sympathize with you for conserving your vocal energy for tonight.
Right.
So
it gets worse as you get older. I'll just tell you about that, Pete Thug.
You know what? You told me it was a badge of honor to have gray in the calluses. So you know,
right.
I'm with you on this one. I'm with you on this one.
Yeah.
By the way, you haven't said anything about this. I thought you'd say something about this.
The big Mike Zack you got back there?
Yeah.
That's nice. That's nice.
Come on.
That's beautiful. I love it. Amazing.
Anyway.
And the big above that, is that like 188? Is that like Spider-Man 188? Or is that
No. It's Miles Morales.
Oh, it's Miles Morales from the front. I thought it was like the cover of the 188 where he's going after Jigsaw, but that's the rear view of him. Okay.
Ooh, Jigsaw. Ooh, I like that.
Yeah.
You're bringing out the big guns today. All right.
Yeah.
All right. You see, elder statesman, I've missed you so much. I just want you to know that. I've missed you so much. So this is good. I'm glad this. And also someone else I've missed, Mr. Carey, Mr. Chris Carey, Vial Zero. How are you doing today, sir? I know you're more, given.
I'm here, man. I am.
You're here. You are here.
I'm here. Yeah.
I'm thankful. Mind you, of all the craziness in your life right now. So
I'm souped up on pain meds. Ready to go. No filter.
Yeah.
That's what we like.
Exactly. Yeah. You don't need a filter on here. We don't care. We don't get monetized because one, I haven't got enough hours to get monetized, and two, I don't. Yeah, it's a whole thing. But whatever. I don't care. Man. I do it because I love it. That's the reason why. We do it for the love of the game, right?
The game.
The Kevin Costner movie.
Correct.
So baseball sucks. You heard it here first. By the way, baseball needs a salary cap. Anyway, so that's right. Sorry, just going on. I'm bitter Mariners fan here. Bitter Mariners fan. All right, enough baseball talk. Okay, so it's been a while since we had a Marvel and Star Wars episode, and it's mainly because of one thing. It's called The Acolyte. Now, I say this not because I don't like The Acolyte. I liked it quite a bit, minus a couple of really bad episodes and some shoddy production here or there. But it was the discourse online that made me go, I can't take this. I almost started questioning myself as a Star Wars fan because I was so tired of people just like the stuff online. It is bad. And then I realized took a break and realized, wait, I love Star Wars, always will, despite idiots on YouTube and despite other idiots on X or whatever the hell you want to call it. So, because I'll just say this right now, there's idiots on both sides. Enough said. And I just hate all the idiots. So,
I don't, saying that they're idiots on both sides suggests there are only two sides.
That is a valid point, sir. That is a valid point, and I stand. Elder statesman, this is why you're here. This is I need you to bring me to reality. So
They get pretty circular, and I think they're idiots across the entire circle.
that's fair. Yeah, that's wisdom right there, sir. That's
Yeah.
wisdom.
What I
So
bring to the table.
yeah, so I know Chris and we like the Acolyte.
I liked it a lot more than I thought I would. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I think you might have liked it a little more than me. Maybe I don't know. We might have liked it the same. I love the last episode was great. I thought the flashbacks were god awful, but I mean, it was long story short. I want to focus on the Acolyte, but long story short, I loved a lot of the characters. I loved the ideas of the Acolyte. The execution of the Acolyte as a whole was a mixed bag at best.
That's like the High Republic in a nutshell for me.
That's exactly. So it's not the worst thing in the world. People try to act like it. I loved a lot of it. I love the Stranger. He's amazing. They need to continue him
Big
somehow. Time. He's amazing. But Ryfin, really quick, were you at Acolyte? Did you even watch the Acolyte? I don't even know.
I did not watch the Acolyte, and there's a reason I did not watch the Acolyte.
Okay, what was it?
I was concerned because I knew that if I watched the Acolyte, I would have an opinion. And I felt in watching the discourse, the worst thing you could do with the Acolyte was have an opinion. So I opted against having an opinion.
You know what? Again, Elder Statesman coming in with he's coming in firing today, man. I'm like, damn, that's a good idea. I can't help it to watch it.
I've been saving all this up, We've been so long we've done anything. It's been building.
True. Yeah, true. But I'm assuming you will one day watch it when people don't care about having an opinion.
Yeah, at some point, I'm sure it will make its way through. I'll probably read some High Republic first. Now that it's over, from what I understand.
Not yet.
There's one more coming out, right? There's one more book coming out.
One more novel, one more YA book. I think the last audio drama just dropped, and I think there's one more comic miniseries.
Okay.
So,
is it now
last book's come out in June, I believe.
Is it a Marvel or DC or Dark Horse comic series?
Marvel.
Okay.
Yeah. By the way, that's a little pet peeve of mine right now. Like when their Dark Horse is produced, it's like, why are we doing this? It's so confusing.
Yeah. Well, and originally I thought the Dark Horse stuff was supposed to be just the kids type stuff, but a lot of the stuff they're doing is not necessarily that.
Yep.
Exactly. It's so confusing. Yes. Like, why are you doing this to us?
It's so bad.
You know what? Listen, I'm not the smartest person by any means, but it feels like synergy is not that hard to get.
Literally just triangle era this. That's all you have to do.
Yes, exactly. Just triangle it. That's all you have to do. It's not that hard. It's not that hard.
I shouldn't have to go on, look online and I find somebody's Reddit where they list everything out chronologically and this is the order to read the stories. It's so annoying.
So by the way, the canon shelf still exists. I haven't put it up since we moved, and I keep buying everything. I'm not going to read 80% of it because it's garbage. I hate to say it. It's bad.
It's been that way for 30 years.
Well, hold on, Mr. Ryfin. There are some good things here or there. The problem with I'm going to read the comics, but I've heard there's just all over the place of everything. And it just sucks because I complained to Tyler on the Star Wars Newsnet one day that I'm like, my goal, if I had one goal for Star Wars in 2025, it'd be to have the ancillary material actually give a shit and actually matter.
That will never be the case again.
No,
I agree to an extent, but I feel there's a happy balance in a medium, and I feel like they'll eventually find it if they keep working at it. But I don't know if they ever will. So I mean, anyway,
that's why they canceled the Mandalorian novel. They don't even want to get in that.
Which that's fair, but to be honest, that's why if you keep it to one, you can make that one be a big effing deal and everyone read about it and have a big hype about it, right? I mean, and actually, make some money off it. Maybe I don't know. What the hell do I know? I'm just freaking a fan, right? So, anyway, what was that?
No, I was just gonna say it's different sets of eyeballs is part of the problem too, and it's much smaller slices of eyeballs, and. Gone are the days when you're selling millions of copies of a book because it's heir to the empire.
Yeah, sure.
And so there's just kind of opportunity cost, I guess, is the question there. What are the opportunity costs there?
No, that's valid. That's valid. So, anyway, we'll talk about those are good topics. Those are good topics. But I want to talk about this little show that came out this last couple months, which kind of surprised me, and I think maybe it surprised a lot of people. I don't know. People were kind of harsh on this show called Skeleton Crew coming into it. It felt like people were kind of being like, how could Star Wars have houses? Oh my God. Like, like how could Star Wars ever have a road that looks like what my road down the street? Oh my God.
Didn't they sit on this for a while though? Because this has been finished filming for, I think, a few years.
It was supposed to come out last year. Early last year. Or like summer or something like that. It was something like that. And then they pushed it. And it's funny because the kids look way older now. Oh my God, they look
they do.
It's like it reminds me of my own kid being like, it's going too fast. Anyway, so if you're new to Marvel and Star Wars subseries, we usually find like an excuse if we're not talking about a comic series initially the whole time. If we're revolving around a TV show or a movie or whatever, we'll do a movie or a show review. And then we do a comic kind of recommendation that kind of ties maybe somewhat into the series, whatever, right? They're fun. They're fun shows. At least I think so. To go and get, deep dive into if you're getting really into Star Wars again, because that was one thing as a fan that I always appreciated when people did. It was like when I got into something like Star Wars or really in a movie or whatever, people would say, "Oh, if you like this, go read this story." If you like I appreciate that. So I want people to find fun stories to read, and we got a fun one to read. We'll dig into more later. But Elder Statesman, I'm going to let the old go first because I need to. No, I'm being serious. I'm being like honorable here. I'm not being like being respectful. I'm not trying to be rude. I'm being real. I'm like, I want the age before beauty to go.
What happened to respectful? What was that?
I know. I'm joking. No, but in all seriousness, I've been dying to know what you think of this. I don't know if I caught maybe an opinion. I'm assuming you watched this.
I did.
Okay, so give me your review. What's your
I have an opinion.
Well, let's hear it.
I very much enjoyed this program. I enjoyed the whole series. It's very much, there are a lot of different riffs on things that it has in it, but it's largely a riff on early 80s Spielberg to me. In fact, it's funny because when I was in college, and that was way back when, like 1988 to 92, I developed a theory that Poltergeist and E.T. were kind of sister movies, and then I found out years later that they were in fact sister movies. They were started as the same movie and split into two, but I always felt they were sister movies because they showed kind of that same view of suburbia of that era. The houses kind of built in the prefab-ish type neighborhoods, and and just a little bit better to do than maybe your parents' houses, and they all had Star Wars toys in them, and so I just always felt like they were kind of the same. And the suburbia in Skeleton Crew struck me as the suburbia in that. Not to mention, there's a shot early on where they're out at night and somebody drops a flashlight, just like in E.T.
Yeah, I saw it. Yeah,
and of course, the opening scenes of the whole thing are a giant riff on Episode 4, which I thought was really cool too. The attack on the Tantive 4.
Yeah, that was great.
But no, I thought it was a throwback. I don't, it did not churn up any new ground necessarily, but it did what it did, I thought, really well. And I'll also say it didn't cheap out on some of the story beats. They could easily have done a giant redemption arc for Jod, but they didn't go there. And I thought that was gutsy.
Agreed.
So and also, let me just say this: I thought it was a gorgeous looking show. To see John Knoll's name in the credits every episode, you go, yeah, okay, I know why this show looks so great. It's fantastic looking. And one of the things I feel like is lacked in the Disney era has been ship design. And we weren't lacking for good ship design in this one. I thought we had good ship design, good creature design, There were a lot of good creature prosthetics in this. It just, again, I don't know that it was churning any new ground, but it certainly hit a lot of buttons that I felt like it was supposed to hit. So I really liked it a lot.
You touch on a lot of different things that I think that are important, that why this show I think was that I really enjoyed. I love the series minus the last episode. So we'll get there, because I feel like, I don't know, the last episode, it's a whole different thing. But as a whole, one of my big critiques about The Acolyte was it was a mixed bag of execution across the board. And a big one for me, which was very weird to say this, but was, even though how expensive it was the production would look kind of cheap sometimes. And other times it'd look amazing. It'd be like, why can't you just smooth it out and have it be more consistent? Like, I feel Mando does a good job of doing like it doesn't always look like A+, but it looks like a good B for the most part for everything, that it all looks pretty good, right? For the most part.
Yeah.
And I feel like Skeleton Crew was probably might be the best looking Star Wars show from Disney Plus.
It was gorgeous.
It looked amazing. And I don't know if that has to do with the fact that we've got more veteran filmmakers. And I mean, obviously Favreau is not no veteran, as a veteran too, but you got
John Watts and
like there's some, it feels like this was a little more Shepard. I don't know. It's hard to explain, but it was interesting because as I watched it, I'm like, this looks amazing. It looks amazing. Even like the Suburban, how dare you have Suburban? Like that looked good. I mean, I was really impressed. And I'm going to say this, and I've said this before on the Saga Continues podcast that we do, but I've said this and I stand by it. I think episode 2, where they go to the pirate port, is, I think, the closest thing to as good as we've gotten with a Mos Eisley or Jabba's palace like creature, like fun, like that whole like thing. Because J.J. Abrams tried with Maz, it doesn't even come close.
And again, a lot of that comes down to design.
Sure, but there were some solid designs in that castle, but it was the way it was shot. It was the way it was the light. I mean, it was a lot of different things combined. When you walk into that spaceport for the pirate ship or the pirate place, it's got a feel immediately. Like it has its own vibe instantly. And it's design. I mean, design, yes, obviously I think that's like 80% of it, or they'll give you 70%, but it definitely felt like its own thing. And it felt so lived in that I was overly impressed. I mean, when you have like a giant Oscar the Grouch guy like running at them with like a knife, I mean, like, give me that all day. That's Star Wars, baby. Like that's what I'm talking about. Like that was incredible. Plus you have a teak from Endor on there. I mean, even though it looked like it was on crack.
Yeah. I was gonna say,
I mean, like,
cracked out. Yeah,
a little cracked out teak. And he acted like he was on crack too, which is unfortunate.
I've seen some hard times.
The teak's been on the teak's been it's been hard on life's been hard on off of Endor. But anyway, I do think that the show looked phenomenal, and that definitely helped a lot of it as well. So, I'll put that, and then Chris, give me your overall review of the Skeleton Crew here.
Overall review, I would say good, not great for me, but
okay.
Good. I liked it. Didn't love it. I know everybody loves to throw out the Goonies as like the big comparison. And what I would say to that is I like the Goonies as much as anybody else, but the Goonies is a 2-hour movie. You try to make Goonies an 8-hour movie, I don't know that I would love the Goonies as much, right? So like I think back on it, I think it's telling to me that I don't remember any of the names of any of the kid characters. I remember SM-33 because he's Smee, and I remember Jod because Jod's amazing. He's like the best character in the show, easily.
He's a phenomenal character.
Neil, come on,
dude. Hold on, Neil.
You got to remember Neil.
No.
Oh,
what? Okay, hold on. I want
is
this for the
the
record.
Blue Alien? Is that the kid?
Yeah.
I mean, I liked him. He was the best of all.
Well, hold on, really quick. I want to comment about Jude Law's character, Jahad, whatever his name is. By the way, can we have that Jorius Kaboth guy? Like, can they, is that a throwback to him or something? Because, or whatever that, the guy from Thrawn, I can't ever,
Yeah. No.
I don't know how I say his name. All I got to say is that's the worst name you could come up with for a Star Wars character. I'm sorry. I am Jahad. It's like, what? What's your name?
Yeah.
Like, I don't understand. Like, that's like, maybe like, I love the character. I wish they just call him Crimson Jack because his name is so bad. It's a terrible name.
Canon now.
It's right. He is canon now.
He's in the.
We'll save that.
Cruiser.
We'll save that for later. Anyway,
but no, he was so good. He was
great.
So compelling.
Mhm.
There were a couple episodes where like the episode where they find the planet that's not Ad-Atten, right? And he disappears for very long segments of that episode. And I remember specifically watching that episode and being like, man, this is dragging. Where's Jod? Like when he leaves the picture, for me, it's not as good. And it's interesting because the first 2 episodes, you don't need him. Like, yeah. Followed along with the kids. The first episode, really great. Second episode, really great. Ends on that great cliffhanger where he kind of comes out and uses the Force. But once you interject him into the story, he played such a prominent role and was acted so well that you immediately feel his lack of presence when he's not in the scene. That was the problem that I had. I didn't appreciate the second to last episode when he lit the lightsaber and looked like he was going to murder everybody. Clearly that's not what happened. And I was really pissed at that. But the last, and I appreciated that they didn't, give him the redemption arc. Like, I like that he's a bad guy, and that's very kind of classic, these pirate tales, whether it's Treasure Island or Peter Pan, like you don't, these pirates aren't getting redeemed. So I liked that aspect of it. I hope we see more of them. I feel like we could. But yeah, that episode when they were at the retreat, that was a maybe my favorite episode actually.
That was a great episode. It was effing weird.
It was, but it was fun.
It was a weird. I will give you this. I mean, Jude Law was obviously one of the standouts, if not the standout. That episode he really shined, in my opinion. Like to me, like.
He's just a great actor.
Yes.
Well, I mean, they've got good actors on the show, but he's just a great actor. And he brought everything that he would bring to any other role, any Oscar movie or whatever. He brought his A game.
And he was lucky that he didn't have to have a scene in the woods where he was running and trying to record something and then getting stunned and then falling and tripping. I hated that scene so much.
What scene was that?
When all the parents are on the planet and they're in the woods and they keep getting stunned and then they like throw like their
Cal Stanford scene
on a forward lateral with this.
Yeah, I thought at the time I was like, it's a Cal Stanford scene.
I did not expect to have football references on my podcast, but
Well,
you know what? I'm here for it.
What are you supposed to get?
Hey, listen. I love me some football. You know this. So,
But Chris brings up that cliffhanger in the penultimate episode where he's got the lightsaber out and he looks like he's going to massacre him. But what you don't know is the original cut of the final episode. They had a different director, and the episode actually opened with he had the lightsaber on him, and then he shut it off and then tossed it over his shoulder and walked off and got some green milk out of a creature. So,
God damn it, he had to go there. He had to go.
And then it ended. That was the thing, though. It was just over because your expectations were something was going to happen, and they decided that didn't work. So, and they were right. By the way, it doesn't work.
You know what? Ryan Johnson said once in an old interview. If you Google or if you go to YouTube and you write down Ryan Johnson predicts The Last of the Jedi, it's him being interviewed at like he's 25 years old, probably just did Brick, and he talks about how he goes, what I want to have people do is walk out of a movie mad. Like I feel if I've done that, I've done my job. And I'm like, and that's why I hate Ryan Johnson. Like this, if you just search that out, I'm like, God damn it, why do we hire this guy? Anyway, that's enough about Ryan Johnson. Whew, so glad he doesn't do any more in Star Wars. Thank Jesus. Thank you, Jesus. Anyway, and listen, and people who know me, I'm not a sequel hater. I love the sequel trilogy, with the exception of parts of Last Jedi. I think I just vilely hate immensely. So anyway, soapbox over. Back to Chris. You were talking about Jahad. Is that his name? Jahad? I can see this. I don't know.
Yeah, Jod.
It's Jod. Jod.
But what's his first name? Jahad. Is that what it is?
Jod. It's like Jod and something.
Yeah, exactly. It's a terrible name.
Jadnodnik.
That's a terrible name.
It is quite bad.
Like, call him Crimson Jack.
Roger Kaputnik.
That's actually what I referred to him as when the show was
exactly.
there. And I talk about it with my wife. I'd be like, "Yeah, Crimson Jack."
Yeah, exactly. Like whatever. So, I would say that to me, first of all, my daughter really liked the show, and like I was telling you guys before, she doesn't love Star Wars as much as I want her to, but she definitely watches a lot of the stuff that's aimed at kids. Like, for her, she's 5, turning 5 here in a few months, and she actually would watch that. She sat down and watched Skeleton Crew with me every time. The penultimate episode, which, by the way, penultimate, fantastic word. When he destroys Smee, or SM-33, excuse me, dude, she got so upset. Like, she goes, no, she goes, turn it off. She wanted me to turn it off. She was so mad.
Oh, man.
And my wife had to be like, we were like, no, Lulu, he'll be fine. He'll be fine. He'll come back. Like, and I do feel it's a little bit of a cop out how they brought him back, where he's just like, he's carrying his head. I liked it, but it's a little bit of a cop out. Let's be real. It's a little bit of a cop out. So,
What was now, Chris, you had a beef with that final episode. What was the beef?
Yeah.
I just didn't like how rushed it felt. Like, even my wife said afterwards, she looked at me and was like, "That's it? Like, that's how they're ending this?" Like, it felt very, very rushed. I mean, I get it, right? You got 8 episodes. You gotta, sure. I'll call my owl friend, and the Republic will come right over, and they'll save the day at the last second.
You respect Kim, by the way. You call her by her name, sir.
My owl friend.
I
was a little disappointed with the reveal of the supervisor. I mean, I figured it would probably be a robot, and I definitely, I don't know if it was intentional or not. Probably it was, right? He sounded kind of Palpatine-ish.
No,
yeah.
I'll have to rewatch that.
But the thing is, if they're part of the great work, so they've been hidden for a long time, then obviously I don't think it would necessarily work timeline-wise. But yeah, I think, like I said, like the ending, I think just kind of let me a little down. Just because and I don't know what I would have wanted. I mean, I think where the show ends, I don't know that you would do a season 2 of it.
Well, they do have plans for like for other seasons, but they've already said that like they're not like as a subsequent as like Stranger Things. They'd be different parts of their life, like literally like. Like 4 or 5 years later kind of a thing.
Well, they would have to be, since it's already been 2 years since they wrapped.
Yeah.
Well, right. But I mean, but I think it's strategically that's what they're saying, is that like they have seasons 2 and 3 possibly like as pitches, and they revolve not around like, it's not like a regular series. It's more of like an event in their life, different parts of their life, not just as I'm 8 now. I'm 10.
Yeah, no, that's good. And by the way, one of the other 80s little touches they had, if you noticed, I'm sure that they were on walkie-talkies all the time. Nobody's on walkie-talkies in Star Wars. They were on walkie-talkies, which was great.
I mean, but like it makes sense for the kids, right? I mean,
yeah, sure.
Dude,
for us.
At least they didn't CGI walkie-talkies in the Pirates' hands.
They took that back. To be fair, they did take that back.
Yeah, but you know what? I kept a DVD of it just to like one day. Spielberg.
Also, the girl with the visor, I always called her Data in my head. Like that's
you're not wrong.
such a
Star Trek.
Star Trek look to me. That kills me. I don't know why they did that.
Okay, you know what's funny? I hated KB like before. Like, I was a hater. I was like, what the hell's this Star Trek shit doing in my Star Wars? You know, kind of a thing. Like, get that out of here. I freaking love KB. Like, I think she's awesome. Like, the show like won me over. Like that episode, where they're like, or hit her and Win. Yeah. KB, Win and KB.
With the crab monsters.
With the stop motion crab.
That was so much fun. That was so much
Giant.
fun. And I really enjoyed like KB as a character. I was like, and like as like even before that, I was like, okay, KB's okay. I think my least favorite was probably Fern. You know, I felt like she was pretty on the nose.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like, okay, she's a wisecracking, young, girl who's like, I'm gonna do everything. I'm so,
She could have been copied from a lot of different things. Yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, nothing wrong with that kind of character. It's just kind of a, it's kind of the same one we got. But KB was fantastic. I thought KB was great. I thought Win. I think you could argue the same thing for Win a little bit. Like it felt, but at the same time, I felt the actor played him really well. Like better. Fern wasn't. The kids weren't bad. The kids were pretty good. I would say the Fern was probably the weakest of the four for me. Just for me, in my opinion. As like my liking, but then I thought, even though I do think Win was a little bit by the numbers, I think the actor playing him was really good. Like he was really good, and he transcended the material and the character itself. So I thought Neil was great. I mean, I love Max Rebo, and I know he's not the same race, but it's a sister race, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I can't help but love Neil because I love Max Rebo.
You love Neil. And even more, I love that Neil is taking a bubble bath at the end.
Oh, that's right.
About that just set me off.
Well, how about when granted, I have not watched the holiday special much. I've never finished it. It's one of the only things in Star Wars I'll probably never finish. Oh, and maybe if you add Last Jedi Canto Bight, I'll never watch that scene ever again in my life, probably. So
hey, it's a better movie without it. You're okay,
dude. It really is. I think we talked about this. I think I said I've skipped Canto Bight. And I'm like, I think it's a much more. I mean, not even trying to be a dick. It's a much more enjoyable movie.
I went opening night and saw the film, and I was like, yeah, okay, all right. And then, and I was doing a stage play at the time, so like, everybody in the cast was, oh, well, he's going to go see Star Wars. What do you think about Star Wars? And all they said during that was, go see it for yourself and decide for yourself. I wasn't going to crap on the movie, but the next day, my wife took her class to go. Took her whole grade to see it.
That's so cool.
Because we'd gotten into a thing where when Force Awakens came out, we took everybody, and Rogue One we took everybody, and then Last Jedi we took everybody. We didn't take anybody after that. But
yeah, you don't want to skip.
Like what? We don't want to go see that. But because I had been up late doing a movie, of course, I get up early in the morning, 3:00 to do a show. I'd been doing a stage play and all that. And I was wiped. And during my second viewing of Last Jedi, I fell asleep for exactly the Canto Bight sequence.
It was perfect.
And afterwards, I was like, "This was a better film with the Canto Bight."
Dude, I'm not even trying to hate. I'm not even trying to be funny. Illegitimate. I felt so much better skipping Canto Bight. It sucks because like the way they cut it, it's like you do miss out on some cool like Rey Luke stuff. I think there, which I'm like I try to time it. I'm like, if I just skip Canto Bight, it is a much more enjoyable movie.
And I didn't mean to, but I did, and you're right.
It's crazy. I mean, yeah, it's crazy. Like I've watched, by the way, really quick. I think I've said this before. I'll say it again. I've watched the extended edition of that when it came out. Like, I was wanting the deleted scene. The chase. Oh my god! It's like it never ends. I'm like why did you waste so much time on this? Anyway, I digress. So back to a couple things with Skeleton Crew. I want to say, I thought the kids all really good. They had great chemistry with Jude Law. I mean, despite his terrible name, fantastic character. Like you said, Jude Law is a class, like just top line actor. Brutus, is that his name? Like, dude, that dude effing rad. Went out like a chump. Right?
Yeah, he did.
The Wolfman?
Yeah. Dude, Wolfie should have had a fight scene. But they Indiana Jones his ass.
Yeah, they did. Exactly what they did.
like, but I mean, but here's the thing. It was also kind of rad how it happened too. So I mean, like, it worked.
Well, but that's we talked again about no redemption arc for Jod, and that was one of those things where as you watch these things, you've just kind of become accustomed to seeing the redemption arc, and then this late in the show when he just blows him away, you go, well, that's going to make redeeming him rather difficult, and of course, they don't.
That is, it was nice when they started telegraphing that they weren't going to redeem him because there's still like maybe a chance,
Mm-hmm.
And I'll give some credit to the show and Jude Law too. The end of the or there's that part where he's like they're trying to like he's basically having to like tell the Fern and her mom and Wynn and his dad. He's like you could tell Jude Law is playing the character like the character is struggling. One, to keep things in order, right? But I think the way I interpreted it, the way Jude Law was performing it, was he was having trouble keeping things in order and not hurting people because that's not what he wanted to do.
Yes.
And I felt, not to say that was redeeming by any means, but you could tell he was struggling as a character to do that. And he was like, and that is one, good writing, but great acting. Because Jude Law, like, I'm glad you agree with that, Scott. Chris, did you feel that too?
I did, and going back to his character in general, I appreciated that. He's a force sensitive guy, but they don't really touch on that at all. Like, I don't even think they use, but they don't say like we don't know his backstory, right? Like,
In the very end, they did finally divulge all that.
They did?
Yeah, that he got protected by a Jedi.
That's right. That's right. It was like Order 66 time, right? Like the Survivor.
Yeah. It was a bit of a data dump at the end of the last episode to kind of tie it. When you talk about things being rushed, that part I felt was kind of rushed.
But if this was filmed like in the Mandalorian style, like you would have had like an opening scene that like showed him as a kid or something. Like you would have had that. It would have been spoon.
That's a great point. Oh, I like that.
We
got an exposition dump instead.
But Jod's he's not always trustworthy.
Exactly.
So story is just right. Is that part of the legend of him, or is that actually who he is? Yeah. I appreciate that there is enough. There's enough cloudiness around his character that you could use him again in the future. He's still very much an open book.
That's a good point. I mean, to be honest, I feel that, in my opinion, as a creative person myself, it feels like Skeleton Crew will be about the kids growing up and trying to find Crimson Jack, because I'm not calling him Jod anymore. I'm calling him Crimson Jack again. In all seriousness, though, really, I do feel like that's I think the series will be based upon them trying to find him for whatever reason, and it's going to be like, and maybe he will have a redemption arc in the end, but like, I do feel that there's there was something that he's not fully redeemable, but I feel like that's kind of the point, right? Is like it's kind of Vader, huh? Like even the worst can be redeemed in some ways,
And they can, and absolutely.
Yeah,
and I'm just glad they didn't just do it like flipping a switch. That's
exactly. All. Yeah. And I think, and I feel like that I think that's where they're probably headed if they're given more seasons. But if they're not given more seasons, it's still a great arc. And I think that great point, Chris, about, if it was Mandalorian, they would have had a scene with him as a kid and being like that. I love that whole thing about being protected by a Jedi and because it would make sense for a guy with street smarts like Jod to have someone raise him that with the Force abilities and wield these things and still not be a fully fledged Jedi, right? So there's a lot of interesting things there. I love the character. I love the character completely, besides his dumb name. But one thing, the last episode just felt rushed. It felt incomplete. This way I would say it. Like when they all end and it's like, why are we ending right now? That's weird, but here's one thing the show will always give me and I'll be forever grateful for it. besides Teak, and that is mother loving B-Wings, baby. Like we finally got B-Wings in action, in live action.
It was dope.
And it was effing amazing.
Yeah, look good.
It looks so
again,
good.
it's just a gorgeous looking show.
So good.
I did find it interesting. I don't know if you guys saw the after credits scene. I thought that was kind of neat. The pirate ship crashes, and Gunter gets out of the command seat and climbs out, and everybody's staring at him in the wreckage. And he looks back at the wreckage, and he looks back at the crowd, and he goes, "Did I do that?"
Oh, I was like, no. I was like, wait a minute. I'm like, this is. I looked for an end credit scene. I was hoping to get something.
You don't remember that?
I wish it did happen, but no. That he was. I thought he was fine. He was a fun character. I liked him.
Yeah, it's good to see Jaleel White getting a little work.
Yeah.
I mean, he does other things. He's behind the scenes guy now. I think more than anything. At least from what I hear, I don't know. I mean,
so this show definitely took place during like the Mandalorian time frame, right?
That's my understanding. Yeah.
Yeah, but I think it's obviously they did because they had the blue X-wings.
Yeah, the New Republic is in charge.
Yeah. So really quick before we move on quickly, and we'll spend a long time on the comic, but but I will say by far favorite character besides SM33, who's obviously goated on that show. It's Kim. My girl Kim is one of the best creature designs. Like it's effing amazing. I have a Kim Funko Pop. God damn it! Like I went literally the next week. I live by Funko, the Funko store, which is amazing by the way. I love that place. And I never was in Funkos until I moved to Everett, and then all of a sudden I go to Funko all the time, and I have way too many of them. I went there and they had a Funko exclusive Kim. I was like, I'm picking this mother lover up. So, and
can I give all of the partners credit, but particularly Hasbro, but Funko, you got to throw in there as well. I think this is the first time that there's been a Disney Plus Star Wars series on the air that the merchandise actually made it to the stores while it was still being put out.
I mean, Mando.
No,
it did.
No.
It did a little bit.
Nope, none, zero. Because remember, there was no merchandise even. Like they didn't start producing any merchandise before the show came out because Grogu was kept under wraps.
Well, Grogu, yes, but not the Mando himself. They still had stuff out there for Mando. It just wasn't Grogu. It just wasn't. They had. I bought stuff. Trust me, I bought stuff. It wasn't a lot, but it was some of it. I mean,
I don't know. I don't know.
Well, either way, I agree with you though that it feels like the synergy for getting this stuff out for kids was probably a smart move. And it sucks because I want to get the Black Series figures. I've not bought many Black Series figures anymore.
They're out.
I know, but I'm like, I have to buy all the kids now. Damn it. Like it's a lot of money, man. I just want to get SM33. I still need to get a Jekki from Acolyte figure. I love Jekki. God, I miss Jekki.
Jekki. Jekki was cool. I only have
rad, dude.
I only have 2 Black Series figures.
I don't blame you. I've given like honestly like toys like it's like I don't know. They're fun to buy. I can't help but buy them still, but I've toned down quite a bit over the years. Funko's kind of taken over. I'm
retro. I'll buy the retros. And you know what? I actually took a dive in. I like that, Hasbro's doing this little 3 3/4 series with 5 points of articulation.
Yeah. The new ones, right?
I love those things. I don't know what they call the series, but I love those things because to me, they're what those figures should be in the first place.
Yeah.
They're really very playable.
Isn't it just like the white box and
they got like white cards.
Yeah.
And they're 3 3/4 figures. They're 5 points of articulation. There's nothing elaborate. The paint masks are not gigantically massive. They're just toys. And because of that, they're also, $8-9. And actually I've been eyeballing them for a little while, and I finally picked up this week because Amazon had marked down from $30, $29.99 to $6.97.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Oh,
that was $7, man.
That's great. That's cool. See, that's cool.
That's Rockstar stuff.
That is.
It's got 3 3/4 Mando. It's got 3 3/4 Grogu. It's got the Naboo starfighter that he's got.
Yeah.
It's got little action features to it. It's it's a neat little toy. And here's the thing: kids would play with this.
They would.
This is what these things should be.
You're not wrong. You're not wrong. All right, so it sounds like we all generally like the Skeleton Crew show. Would you all say that?
Here's the funny thing: I might have liked it more than you guys.
I liked it quite a bit. I just didn't like the last episode.
I was
Maybe you
fine
did.
with the last episode.
Yeah. What was that?
I said I was fine with the last episode. Again, my fear going into that last episode was they were going to do some flip redemption out of nowhere for Jod, and they didn't. And I was really happy with that. That was kind of my focus on that episode.
All right. So moving on to the comics recommendations. I had decided, because we had a pirate theme, we would do some Star Wars pirate focused comic books, which you could probably get like, I don't know. It's very what's the word? It's very broad pirates, right? So,
but how funny is it that we picked these before the Skeleton Crew started? So we didn't even know about the whole Crimson Jack tie.
Crimson Jack.
No. I knew this was picked. This was picked during.
Oh, was it?
Yeah, it was.
Was it?
Yes.
I don't think.
I promise you.
Was it while you were buying Mando season 1 merchandise?
God damn it! You suck, dude. Elder Statesman is schooling me right now. He's like, "Let me show you how it's done, boy." He's like, "Bam, bam." All right. Anyway, we're reading. Wait, is 11 through 15?
Yep. Which is a perfect dramatic unit. I mean, it is the beginning and the end.
It is. It's very interesting. So we're not going to go in mega detail. I want people to actually read. These are fun comics. I mean, just spoiler alert, super fun. The Marvel, I'd say the first couple years of Marvel's line is pretty fun. It kind of goes off the rails for a little bit midway through. Like when they go to a different universe. It's kind of weird. Yeah. James, when like Lando and like, anyway, so.
Are you talking about like the Cody Sunchild thing?
Yeah, exactly.
That's an issue. It's like there's a bad issue here and there, sure. That's 46, I think. That's
a rough issue. I guess what sucks is it's one of my favorite writers' issues too, right? James DeMatteis. But
the thing about that little era was, you had Star Wars, and then I thought they did really well, Star Wars to Empire, and then right after Empire they were like floating.
Mm-hmm.
And it wasn't really, I agree. We got David Michelinie and Walt Simonson together that it started taking shape again. God, once those guys got together, that became another really solid run.
No, trust me, I love. Yeah, they did the Tarkin together, right?
Yeah. That was their first big storyline together. Was the Tarkin?
That storyline rips, dude. That's a great story. All right.
But they also created the Hoojibs.
The Hoojibs.
Make him. Aren't they canon now? Are they canon now?
I hope they're canon.
I think they are.
I'm very okay with that.
They're not they're like in the comics or something. Anyway.
I think they're in the comics. I forget if it's Darth Vader or Star Wars, but I'm almost positive I just read.
Yeah, I feel like they kind of showed up recently. So anyway, we're talking about issues 11 through 15, like you said, and it's basically, in a nutshell, Han Solo and Chewbacca are captured by none other than Crimson Jack himself, Jude Law. Yes, I said Crimson Jack, Jude Law. And he looks very different than we all know him to be. Now, this is Star Wars issue 7, I believe, which he first appears in.
Yeah, right after they left the rebellion. Because that's the thing, is they've just left after the Death Star battle, and they've been given their reward. They've loaded their reward up, and they've gone off onto their own to go pay Jabba the Hutt, and they get stopped and boarded by Crimson Jack. It's a really good thing with Archie Goodwin picking up, and one of the things he was really good at is picking up little tiny story elements and bringing them forward and making more out of them than they originally were. I mean, the purpose of Crimson Jack essentially was so that Solo wouldn't have his reward, so he couldn't pay off Jabba the Hutt, so he had to eventually kind of come back to the, and he had to go try to find money, and he had to eventually work his way back to the rebellion. That was kind of the point of it. He was kind of a one-off, and then all of a sudden Archie Goodwin takes the reins, and he's front and center.
Yeah, and so so we have and obviously Luke or Leia gets captured by Crimson Jack at one, and then hilarity ensues. And in the meantime, we've got Luke looking for a new base for the Rebel Alliance, and winds up on a water planet. What? Oh my God! Like, I can't believe we have a water planet here, people. And which they make it a big deal to talk about that, right? There's a whole water planet, and we get space pirates and basically sea pirates, which is super, like, honestly, I totally forgot that these guys were actually like sea pirates. So so if you guys are wondering, it's in Marvel original series, obviously, issues 11 through 15, and you can get it through obviously Unlimited, which is probably the easiest way to do it. I'm pretty sure you probably get it on Hoopla. Hoopla is the goat. It's goated in my opinion. But also, don't forget what me and Ryfen are doing. You can get them on the awesome Epic line, which I think is out of print now. Or no, it's out of print, but like it's actually way more money now, I think. But dude, the Epic collection is chef's kiss.
I still have my Dark Horse omnibus.
I've got mine as well. And but it's a smaller, so it's kind of I'm not, which is whatever. But these are just Anyway,
you guys don't want to know.
I really. It's so weird to have an affinity for the Marvel comics because I obviously did not grow up reading these stories. I read them much later, but it's funny to me how I can look at these as kind of a product of their time and know like what they were dealing with in terms of the Star Wars universe was really an open book after that first movie, and the way that they were able to create these fun stories and I don't know, I give them a lot of credit. And, I think if a story like this was in like a modern day run, I think I would not like it nearly as much, but it's something about the artwork. It's something about the time period for me. It hits the right spot.
I think that's a good point. I would argue a little bit though, if you present it in a modern way, I think Ryfen would agree with this. I think the story would hold up pretty well, in my opinion. Because I mean,
it would have different dialogue and different art, but yes, the story beats work.
The story beats really work if you're doing a story with Luke and Leia in that time frame, right? Like exactly, everything's the same except for some of the dialogue will be punched up a little bit for modernized, and the artwork, like
we'd have a lot less narration in today's comic, which is unfortunate. I grew up with all the thought bubbles and the narration bubbles.
I love narration bubbles too. Like but the thing was, they were, to a fault, they were a crutch for writers to which, but I also would argue too that writers also don't write as much anymore in comics, which is kind of sad. So
I was going to say, I think they were less a crutch and more a way to cram more story into an issue, because also an issue or two of old comics is about 6 in current comics, so they can take their time and stretch it out and decompress and all that other stuff. So
you read an issue of Chris Claremont's X-Men and
oh my God, and 4 hours later
read a full trade paperback of a modern run, or one issue of that.
Now, to be fair, some writers are worse than others, and it's funny because there's some writers that I don't even care. They're so good that I don't like for instance, like Jed McKay. He's not terrible. He's not the worst at this, but like I'll burn through an issue of Moon Knight. His Moon Knight run's so good. Love it. But like I can burn through an issue in like 5 minutes, like really easy. But I feel like I get a lot out of his book though. And so it just really depends on what you're doing. And then I may say 5 minutes. It's not always like that. But I mean, comics are meant to be read.
You're not wrong though. I mean, I'm reading Benjamin Percy's run on Ghost Rider right now, and it's the same thing.
There's good comic storytelling in the decompressed era. It's just that's not how they told stories back then.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, well said. And really, time is relative as far as like what you read, because again, you gotta. We're trained by nature. It feels like to burn through things fast, right? It feels like. And I feel like back in the day, like they wanted you to sit down and really absorb a page. And I try to do that more often with comics, obviously, because the artist is so talented. I want to absorb the storytelling that not just the writer is doing, but what the layout is of the page, right? So, but I mean, like, but at the same time, look at this. Look how much dialogue is in here.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what I think is missing a lot. I do feel some writers they steal a lot of time from us in a bad way of like, we don't want to have people talk like this a bunch. It's like, no, I do. Like Jonathan Hickman's Spider-Man run right now. We're gonna do an episode next month about it. There's a lot of dialogue.
And Spider-Man should have a lot of dialogue.
Well, you're
Spider-Man
right.
Spider-Man chatters, and he should.
But I'm talking about like the whole book though, like non Spider-Man characters. There's a lot of like just developing characters through dialogue and interactions, and
that's very Hickman.
Right, but here's the thing, and I'm very critical of Hickman, to be fair, but Ultimate Spider-Man's fantastic. But the thing is, that's a great example of a modern writer using the medium to his full advantage. And I feel like not enough writers do that. And I think there's an example of a modern writer doing that the right way. But yeah, but this was a great fun read to see Luke, kind of, because I do feel you're developing Luke a little bit through these pirates of like learning, like, you can't just whip his lightsaber out and be like, I can fix anything. Like he learned very quickly. He can't just do that, and that's good. That's wise storytelling,
And it doesn't hurt having Carmine Infantino on the pencils there either.
I mean, you're not wrong either, right?
The funny thing is, like when I was a kid, I hated the Carmine Infantino pencils.
Really?
Because they weren't accurate. They weren't movie accurate, and I wanted movie. In fact, it's funny because going back and reading it, you could see a lot of spots where Terry Austin went back and redrew R2-D2's details. You can see places where he went back and did that.
Because Terry Austin's a goat, dude. That's why.
Oh yeah, absolutely. But now I appreciate it because I understand the storytelling. The guy just tells dynamic stories, and I feel like that's why I think I loved these things so much, is because that era, the stories were clever, they were decent. But also what's interesting to me is, Chris talked about getting in a mindset to read these. And I think his mindset was exactly the right mindset, because it's the mindset that I was in when I first read them, but I didn't know that I was in that mindset. These comics, and it's the thing I try to get people to understand, when they sit there and try to mock them or belittle them, these comics were Star Wars when we were kids, when I was a kid. We didn't have a second movie at this point. I just knew that every time I stopped at a convenience store, I scoured the rack to see if there was a Star Wars comic that I didn't have, because those were the stories. That was what was happening to those characters.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't a matter, is this canon? Is that canon? This is the only thing that is happening to these characters.
Yeah.
So this, it's kind of the same mindset that Chris describes, but it wasn't something that I had to force on myself, because it was what was.
Yeah.
When we read these books, this is Star Wars.
Yeah.
This is what happened next.
So Chris, tell me, reading this, you said you really liked it. Tell me something tell me one thing that stood out to you, like from a Star Wars fan's perspective, that kind of took you by surprise, if anything did. Just, it could be by surprise, or just, in general, it kind of stuck out to you.
So I wouldn't say anything to me by surprise, because it's not the first time I've read this. But one of the things that I had kind of forgotten about, that you wouldn't see today, is the fate of Crimson Jack at the end of this, right? I mean, here's a brand new antagonist for your comic line. You could certainly keep him around for a long time, but they make a choice to deal with his character in such a way where you're not really going to see much more Crimson Jack. I thought it was very gutsy to introduce a villain like that and finish off with him and say, like, okay, we're done telling stories with this character.
Yeah,
I thought that was you wouldn't have that today. Crimson Jack would show up constantly, be like a Doctor Doom, well, not like a Doctor Doom, a reoccurring.
Crimson Jack is Doctor Doom. That's a take.
Yeah, I mean, you don't have to look any further than to see how they've treated Valance the Hunter since they actually brought him back into the new canon. I mean, he had a complete story arc in the original series, and it was fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
And now they just bring him back and do whatever they can to keep sustaining him. And there's a lot about what they do with him now that I'm not a fan of.
Yeah.
I haven't read it. Now, to be fair, I haven't read it in a while, but and I read the first like chunk of his like reintroduction. I actually thought he's a pretty cool character, to be honest. Like, I like this version. I mean, I haven't finished it. The new canon, yeah.
Well, the problem with Valance is that I don't want to say you can only tell one kind of story with him, but they've told basically the same story with him like 3 times now. And you get to a point where you're like, okay,
yeah,
nothing new. Okay, cool.
And again, but I was talking earlier about grabbing morsels and little bits from the movie and expounding upon them for some of these stories. And kind of the seed of his story originally was, and it's one of the things that drives me kind of crazy about the new Valance is he's kind of pretty much all robot, was that he was half and half. And there was a disdain for droid, clear and obvious disdain for droids shown in the first film.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody liked droids. Nobody respected droids. Solo didn't. The barkeeper didn't. So obviously, societally, there's something we don't like about droids, and I think the prequels do a good job of giving us a reason for people not to like droids. But we know from just seeing that first film, we have that prejudice against droids. We don't serve their kind here, which is something you would have said to a black bar patron in the 50s. Same. That type of prejudice is exhibited towards droids. So now you have a guy who is half droid and half human. He is half of what society hates, and to me, it's powerful because of that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I agree, and I think I don't know. Again, it's been a while since I've read the comics. I'm really behind on that. I will eventually read up because I did like what they did in Bounty Hunters, and I think Valance is an interesting character. But I haven't read it in a while. So Chris, you were continuing on anything else you wanted to add on this series here?
Just that I wish that the comics now took a page from this kind of storytelling. And just I feel like everything today is so like, what's the tie-in, right? It's event after event after event, and nothing gets the space to breathe. I loved Greg Pak's start to his Darth Vader run, but Darth Vader gets tied into every event that's going on and just loses absolute momentum. It's
that's unfortunate.
It's to the detriment of the stories, like Dr. Aphra, Bounty Hunters, the Star Wars, Darth Vader. They all kind of get sucked into these events, and then they don't.
It takes them off course.
Yeah, it takes them off course. They don't add anything. You can tell the creators are trying to still kind of fit their story, their larger story that they're wanting to tell, but they keep getting pulled away into insane events like the Dark Droids, which is both the best and the worst, I think, event that the new canon has done. Like it is wait to read it. It is so utterly absurd. Like it's fun, and then but then it stops being fun, and then
jumps the shark.
Come on, man, this is so ridiculous. But it's worth to read it just to be like, what drugs were they taking to develop this? Is very crazy. But
okay, I've got a question for you guys.
Yeah,
you guys mentioned the Triangle era earlier, and I was reading that weekly when it came out. And what is it about the Triangle era that you had 3 to 4, depending on how many titles they were publishing at the time, 3 to 4 creative teams that all seemed to be doing their thing, but still found a way to work everything into the whole and make it all fit together really well? That I don't know that anybody else has really ever done to that degree. The tie-ins all worked really well. The episodes picking up, or the issues picking up one to the other, worked really well, and it didn't seem to crimp the creative crews.
Mm-hmm.
What was different about that nobody else seems to be able to get right?
I almost wonder if it's that Star Wars has too many storytelling cooks in the kitchen. You know, they've got a whole story group and this, that. So you've got a story group on top of, you know, your creative teams. I don't know. I mean, I've read about that era of Superman, right? Where like they go on the retreats and they work out all the storylines that they're going to tell. You know, they kind of divvy up what characters they want to use. It definitely feels like that era certainly had a lot more collaboration.
Yeah. But it does seem to be a thing across comics, and it's not just, to me, it's not just the Star Wars stuff. It's a lot of the other titles where these guys will be trying to get into their creative groove, and then all of a sudden they have to subvert everything to the tie-in. But it did happen to Star Wars. It does happen to Star Wars.
It happens to all major
Triangle
major
era was so clean about that, though. It was so clean.
It wasn't perfect though either, man. Because I read Panic in the Sky for the Superman show we did, which is okay. Well, go do Countdown to Superman. Go check out the playlist. A lot of fun episodes on that.
Yeah,
and that was the first one we did, and it was not. It's a little bit messy. And that's triangle era. I mean, there's some good parts. There were some messy parts though, and I feel like it's just anytime you're intertwining a lot. I mean, I'm not saying it's always gonna be bad. I mean, I'm sure I know triangle era is beloved for a reason. So, but that being said, I do think that right now, Chris has a great point that Star Wars has way too many people involved in it. And I think the cool thing with Star Wars for a long time was that George, he let people go kind of run rampant, but George probably should have been more George, to be honest, on it, if you get what I'm saying. So, you know, so I mean, there's I don't know, there's pros and cons. I mean, but I'm with you. I think that like, for the most part though, they need to like just ditch this stuff and just tell their own stories and then not worry about tying things in. And like I said, like if you start making the ancillary material matter, even though you can't do big things in the books and the comics, like, you know, because it doesn't make as much money, not even close. I think if you made them, I would, in my opinion, you start making things matter more in the comics and the books in some ways, then those things, people will be flocking more to it and talking about it more and creating more buzz for it online, opposed to just being like, I read all the High Republic books and they talk about yellow lightsabers. You know, I mean, like, you know, yeah. So
that doesn't matter.
Yeah, it doesn't matter. By the way, two things before we wrap up. I want to throw it to the Elder Statesman about this story series, but really quick, I have this shirt that I have brought up here, and it's fantastic.
Oh, the issue 14 shirt.
Yeah, pennies, baby.
The Sound of Armageddon. And I will say, it's very easy to kind of knock Star Wars storytelling right now. It's a very easy punching bag, but I spent last year finally catching up on all the books that I hadn't gotten around to reading yet. And the book that surprised me the most was the new Mace Windu book that just came out, The Glass Abyss.
I've heard that's really good.
And I was very hesitant because I'd read Steve Barnes when he did The Cestus Deception like 20 years ago, and I was not a fan of that book. So I went into very low hopes. And if you like your Mace Windu a certain way, you may not like the book. He writes Mace Windu like it doesn't feel like Mace Windu. Like it could have been any Jedi. But if you can look past that, pound for pound, maybe one of my favorite Star Wars books I've read in quite a long time.
Wow.
Like the story is just nonstop action. It's very creative. The villain is very unique, very different. Really had a ton of fun with it. It was kind of thing where I looked forward to reading it, and I kind of stretched out a little longer than I may have normally because I was just really enjoying it. And then I finished, and I was like, man, like that was so good. Like and that's kind of sad at the same time when you have that kind of a reaction, because that means that most of the material you're getting is not at that level. But it was really good. So I'll give them kudos when they earn it, and that was definitely a book worth checking out.
You know, I said I've heard that's really good, but in fairness, I think I heard it from Chris. So,
that's why.
Yeah, but it did intrigue me, make me want to check it out. I used to be the guy who bought every single book, and now I've backed off to only things that are really interesting to me, or John Jackson Miller. So,
did you read The Living Force?
I haven't read it yet.
I was so disappointed, actually.
No,
I love John Jackson Miller. He has not written a bad Star Wars book, but I think he bit off way more than he could chew with Living Force.
No, I hate to hear that.
Yeah, it's all 12 of the Jedi Masters. They all play a role. I think it was just you had like something like 15 different POVs, so nobody really gets a whole lot of attention.
Yeah,
and everybody comes across feeling like more caricature. Yeah, it was disappointing, and they kind of built it as like they was going to have this big tie-in to the High Republic, which I was looking forward to, and it really didn't have much of a tie-in, so I was kind of bummed about it.
All right, other statesmen. What?
Yes.
Give me some thoughts on the story, and we'll get out of here.
I love the story. I love Crimson Jack. I love the only thing when you mention telling the story these days, I don't know that you can have a characterization of a female character like Jolly.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah,
that was rough.
Who kind of gets a little wobbly kneed at being kissed by a man, and I don't know that would fly anymore, the characterization. But at the same time, the characterization of Leia is like spot on. It's gorgeous,
spot on,
perfect. And that again, what I love about those books is going back now. I mean, what I loved about them then was they were Star Wars, like I said. What I love about them now is going back and looking and seeing how much I really feel like they got right. Yep. With nothing to go on or very little to go on. And it just tickles me. This was, by the way, this is Archie Goodwin's first story arc. And Archie Goodwin had a lot more to go before he packed it all up. But he's probably my favorite Star Wars comic writer. I love what he wound up doing. Pretty soon you've got The Wheel. Shortly after that, you've got his run-ins with the Taggy family. And then you've got, and that will resolve right before The Empire Strikes Back. And in the middle of all of that, you've got, what else do you have? The Valance story.
Yep.
He brings Valance
out. Yeah, the next issue.
And 27 and 28, and he even throws in a little side trip to Jabba the Hutt, which Chris mentioned Black Series figures earlier. One of the few Black Series figures I have is what I like to call, I don't even know what his official name is. I call him Marvel Jabba.
I did not know they made a black figure of him.
Yes, they did. They made when they were doing 3 3/4 Black Series, they have that. I have him on a card.
What? They did? Really?
Yeah.
That's crazy.
I mean, I forget I can't even remember what they call him now, but I just call him Marvel Jabba. So.
Oh, because he's like a design. I see.
Yeah.
Okay.
He's a Cantina creature design, but they used him as Jabba in the adaptation, and then they went back in an issue 29. They used him again as Jabba. So,
right on. Well, yeah, I do love these stories. I think they're good. They're fun. Again, Star Wars issues 11 through 15. It's a quick, it's actually not that quick. It does take some time to read them, believe it or not.
God forbid.
Yeah, time well spent.
Yeah, it's time well spent, and they're super fun, and it's got pirates in it, and Crimson Jack. That whole thing came from this nod to this comic series, which is really fun. So go check out, read some more Star Wars comics, as always, and we'll be back hopefully sooner than later. We still gotta get a Chris's pick. I feel bad we haven't fulfilled our promise on that one. So we will get to Chris's pick here soon. So anyway, Chris, why don't you tell people where we can find you and all that good stuff. Okay.
I am at Vile0 on pretty much everything, including X. Again, I'm back, and thefilmlegacy.com is my website.
Right on. Yes, go check that out. And other statesmen. Do you want to plug anything? You're kind of a celebrity, so I don't even know.
I'm a celebrity. That's what I am. Hey, you know what? I am in the process of I'm a nominee to be nominated for the Best of Savannah radio personality from ConnectSavannah.com right now. So
that's cool.
They have a nomination process, and I'm in that process, and the ballot doesn't start till next month. But but if you want to go nominate me, enough nominations will get me actually nominated, and that's at connectsavannah.com, and I will pay you.
That sounds very complicated.
It is. It's ridiculously complicated, and when you see the ballot, it's even more ridiculously complicated. But I will say this: I've been on the air. You know, was in Brunswick, and then they spread my show. They semi-syndicated it into Savannah, and you know, this thing's been going on for years. I've never even been at the nomination stage, so it's kind of neat.
That's awesome, man. Congratulations.
I'm making some headway with Savannah. So.
That's awesome. We'll go Savannah. Go on Savannah and vote for Mr. Rifen. A great person. Great person. Yeah, well that's a good plug. I like that. That's an excellent plug. You can follow the Comic Binge on all the things. Hopefully you follow us on YouTube and like our videos and go back, and there's a plethora of content on here for if you love comic books. We got something for you on here. So next week, I believe, is going to be our next episode for the Countdown to Superman. We are doing President Luthor, and that's going to be that was very interesting. I have one little bit left to read, but then after that, we have an absolute check-in, meaning we do a check-in with the absolute issues of Superman, Batman, and Wonder Woman. Which, by the way, Absolute Wonder Woman is absolutely fantastic. So go check that out. Or when we do that, and I appreciate everyone who's already liked the videos and all that stuff. So Chris Clow is in here. I will say, read more comics. Good night, everybody.